Alright, hello everybody. We're in section 1.2. We're going to solve quadratics by using the quadratic formula. So here's our quadratic. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. A, b, and c are real numbers, and a is non-zero. It's important for two reasons. One, as you can see in the quadratic formula here, a is in the bottom. So if a was 0, that would cause division by 0, which is undefined. And also, if a was 0, that would wipe out the squared term, which means you'd have a linear. This is definitely a quadratic. So the quadratic formula goes x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a, all over 2a. That's important. Not just this term or this one. Everything's being divided by that 2a. This is a famous formula. The pros are that number one, it always works. So this is a major advantage to the quadratic formula, where sometimes factoring, maybe it factors, maybe it doesn't. But if the thing doesn't factor, you're kind of stuck. Completing the square can be a pain. Square root method is not always applicable, but this always works. The con is that there's a lot of places for algebra mistakes. You got square roots, you got minus signs. It can be a nightmare with little mistakes. But the pros far outweigh the cons. This should be memorized instantly because you need this one. It's always a fallback, where if you're struggling with factoring it, you can always just use the quadratic formula. So let's take a look at an example. Okay, let's try to solve this problem. So what kind of equation do you have? You definitely have an equation, equal sign stuff on both sides, and this is a quadratic. You have that square term. One very important note is the following. To use the quadratic formula, the quadratic must be equal to 0. That's an absolute must. It's just like factoring, where it's the same kind of mistake when you try to factor to solve a quadratic and it's not equal to 0. By definition, the quadratic formula has to be equal to 0. So is this equation equal to 0? You betcha, that's a check mark. We got it. But you always have to check that. Sometimes you got to move stuff around first. Once I have it set equal to 0, the next thing I like to do is off to the side, I like to write down what the letters are. So a here, that's my leading coefficient. It's coefficient on the x squared term. A here is 3. B here is minus 5. Watch those signs. The minus is attached to those 5. That's your b value. And my c here is a positive 1. Alright, then I start going through quadratic formula. Instant answers. How awesome is that? Pretty awesome. So x, right, that's what you're solving for. That's the variable. X equals negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all divided by 2 times a. And now just replace the letters with the numbers that they are for this problem and be very careful. So start with the minus sign, then plug b in, make my sign changes accordingly. Plus minus big square root sign, parenthesis, minus 5 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is 1, all divided by 2 times a, which is 3. Okay, next up, simplify. Okay, let's see. So double negative, minus a minus, positive 5, plus minus square root of minus 5 squared is 25. Right, watch out for that. Minus 5 times minus 5 is positive. Then minus 4 times 3 times 1 is 12. 2 times 3 I think is 6. Plus 5 plus minus square root of 25 minus 12 is 13 over 6. Let's see, can I clean up this root at all? No. I can't cancel out anything. And we've got our two answers. That's what that plus or minus means. So I get x equals 5 plus root 13 over 6. And x equals 5 minus root 13 over 6. And booyah, we got ourselves some answers. Love that quadratic formula. Alright, let's try another example. Okay, let's try this one. So here I definitely have a quadratic and I have an equation. Equal signs on both sides. Here's my x squared term. Am I ready to do the quadratic formula right now? No, remember, it's always got to be equal to 0. So we need to set it equal to 0. Alright, so the easiest way I think to make that happen is to move this 9x over. That's both sides, and then I got 4x squared minus 9x is 0. Now it's set equal to 0, it's a big check mark. Alright, a here is 4, b here is minus 9, and the question is c equals what? Because I don't see any constant term. Well, okay, no big deal. Anytime if you have a missing term, as long as it's not that x squared term, you can always put in a 0. So in this case, c is 0. Alright, let's do the quadratic formula. Alright, Alright, so x equals negative b plus minus big square root sign b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. Okay, double negatives, that's 9 plus minus square root of minus 9 squared again is a positive 81. And minus 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 times 0 is 0. 2 times 4 I think is 8, which equals 9 plus minus square root of 81 over 8, which is 9 plus minus square root of 81, that's perfect square, that's 9 over 8. So we get x equals 9 plus 9 over 8, which is 18 over 8, and then simplify the fraction. So I can take 2 out, that's 9 over 4. So we get 9/4 for our first answer, and the other one is x equals 9 minus 9 over 8, which is 0 over 8, which is 0. Remember, you can't divide by 0, but 0 over a number, that's fine. We got our two answers. Okay, let's look at one more. Okay, I've got this quadratic, and I've set it equal to 0. So let's see, my a here is 2, my b here is 5, and my c is 3. So quadratic formula, x equals negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a, equals minus 5 plus minus square root of 5 squared is 25, minus 4 times 2 is 8, times by 3 is 24, over 4, which equals minus 5 plus minus the square root of 25 minus 24 is 1, over 4, which is minus 5 square root of 1 is 1, so plus minus 1 over 4. So we get solutions of minus 5 plus 1 over 4, which is, do the addition first, minus 4 over 4, which is minus 1, and our other answer is minus 5 minus 1 over 4, which is minus 6 over 4, and simplify, which is minus 3/2. And we get our two answers. Nothing to it. Alright, that'll do it for solving by quadratic formula.